If horror movies have taught us anything, it's that you shouldn't become too attached to a character, because at any given moment they could be taken down by a monster, a ghost, a demon, or by someone you least expect. Sometimes the characters you think they'll make it through to the end bite the dust in the first few minutes of the movie. So today on Top 5 Scary Videos, I'm going to be counting down our list of the top 5 shocking horror movie deaths you never saw coming. Before we begin though, be sure to stick around until the end of the video where I'll be responding to some of your comments. And with that, let's jump in. Also remember, this is my list, these are deaths I didn't see coming. If you saw them coming, that's your problem. In at number 5, Hereditary, Charlie. I mean, this number really needs no explanation because for anyone who has seen Hereditary, this is the scene they talk about. Directed by Ari Aster and released in 2018, Hereditary is a horror movie that follows a family haunted by mysterious presence after the death of their secretive grandmother. Now, the family consists of Annie, her husband Steve, their son Peter, and daughter Charlie. From the off, it is obvious to us that something might be going on with Charlie. She's incredibly reserved and somewhat eccentric, acting very odd, making us question her level of sanity. So of course, when Annie tells Peter to take Charlie with him to a party, we get concerned, and as we should be, because while there, Charlie has an allergic reaction to nuts, forcing Peter to put her in the car and speed down the street for help. And this is where everything goes wrong. Spoilers ahead for those who haven't seen it. Peter is frantic, driving way too fast, and Charlie can't breathe, so she sticks her head out of the window for air. Then one thing leads to another and Charlie's head meets a pole, and the head goes flying off. It all happens so quickly that it leaves you in a state of shock. The same goes for Peter, who sits there silently crying before driving home and going to bed, with Annie finding her daughter's body in the morning. It is absolutely devastating. Also, little did we know that evil demon Payman was inhabiting Charlie's body, with the death of her resulting in him being transferred to Peter. Yikes. Coming in at number 4, The Shining, Dick Hallorann. Directed by the legendary Stanley Kubrick and released in 1980, The Shining is a psychological horror movie based on the 1977 Stephen King novel of the same name. Now, the movie tells the story of the Torrance family, Jack, Wendy, and their son Danny, who head to an isolated Colorado hotel, the Overlook Hotel, for the winter, where Jack has accepted the position as the off-season caretaker. Now, as you would expect, being isolated in the mountains would take its toll on the mind, and that's what goes down in The Shining, with Jack Torrance descending down a dark path into madness, seeing the ghosts of the Overlook and turning on his family in the process. Now, as we know, Danny Torrance possesses the Shining, a psychic ability that allows him to see into the hotel's horrific past. We learn early on that Dick Hallorann, the hotel cook, also possesses these abilities, and communicates with Danny using them. He's his aide along the way, helping him telepathically as the hotel begins to absorb those inside of it. So that is why it is so damn devastating when Jack Torrance kills Dick with an axe randomly towards the end of the movie, blindsiding everyone. Now, this was mostly shocking because this is not what went down in the book. In the book, Dick survives the entire ordeal, but apparently Stanley Kubrick wanted something a little more shocking, and that's what he gave us. R.I.P. Dick. You were one of the good ones. It was a good Dick. Arguably the best Dick. In at number 3, we have The Sixth Sense, Malcolm Crowe. Love him or hate him, you have to say that M. Night Shyamalan knows how to do a twist and shock all audiences in the process. Released in 1999 and directed by Shyamalan, The Sixth Sense is a supernatural psychological horror that follows the characters of Cole Sear and Malcolm Crowe. Cole is a young boy who sees dead people, and Malcolm is a child psychologist determined to help him. The movie is terrifying yet emotional, with Cole seeing ghosts when you least expect it. In school, at home in this kitchen, and at a kid's birthday party inside a small cupboard, which is arguably the most haunting part of the movie in my opinion. Now, I should preface by saying that throughout the movie it is clear that Malcolm is having marital issues, with his wife being distant and communication non-existent. And then, in the most surprising and devastating twist, it is revealed to us that Malcolm has been dead for the entire movie. As we know, in the first few moments of the film, he has an encounter with a former patient who breaks into his home and then shoots himself. Little did we know before he shot himself, he shot Malcolm, killing him. The reason he can communicate with Cole is because he himself is a ghost, and he needed help crossing over to the other side. To quote Susie Underpants, "When I saw it in theaters, my jaw dropped when I realized that's what had happened. I'm a pretty analytical person, but I was so wrapped up in what the child character was going through in the movie that I wasn't even thinking about Bruce anymore. Looking back, I can see the twist coming, but it still shocked me so much." And that's exactly how I felt when watching this movie. I remember being shaken to my absolute core. I'm still shooketh. You didn't see it coming because it's a scary movie, you're just waiting for the ghost to pop out. Little did you know, you're watching one for the whole movie. Coming in at number 2 we have Scream, Casey. Released in 1996 and directed by Wes Craven, Scream follows the character of Sidney Prescott, a high school student in the fictional town of Woodsboro, California, who becomes the target of a mysterious killer in a Halloween costume known as Ghostface. Scream was credited as revitalizing the horror genre, which had prior to this been floundering following an influx of direct-to-video titles. Wes Craven managed to turn the entire genre on its head with the self-aware slasher. Not only did he highlight the cliches of horror movies, but he did something that no one had done since Alfred Hitchcock in Psycho. He promoted Drew Barrymore as the lead in Scream, having her front and center on the poster, and then proceeded to kill her off in the first 8 minutes of the movie. Now, I should state that Barrymore originally was signed on to play the lead, Sidney Prescott, however unexpected commitments forced her to take the smaller role of Casey, but this actually ended up working out in Wes Craven's favour, allowing him to still use Barrymore's name to promote the movie, and shock an entire audience when she was brutally killed off. Now, the death scene of Casey is absolutely tragic, emotional and downright fun. She receives a call from an unknown number asking her if she likes scary movies, and from there it descends into a horror night for the teen who ends up dead while trying to flee from Ghostface, and the last we hear from her is her dying voice begging for her parents' help. It's very, very sad. And finally, coming in at number 1, Psycho, Marion Crane. When Marion Crane first stopped at the ominous looking Bates Motel, we had no idea what was in store for her, and what we got was the last thing we expected. Released in 1960 and directed by Hitchcock, Psycho was based on the 1959 novel of the same name by Robert Bloch, and centered on the encounter between a female embezzler on the run, Marion Crane, and Norman Bates, the shy proprietor of a secluded old motel, and its aftermath. Now, the movie follows heroine Marion Crane until she sets foot inside of the Bates Motel. Up until this point, we have been led to believe that as an audience, we will be following her journey, but boy were we wrong. As we know, Marion decides to take a shower in her motel room, and no sooner has she begun bathing when a grey-haired figure in a dress opens the curtain and begins stabbing Marion to death. We see very little, but the blood pouring down the train and the screams of Marion are enough for us to know what is going on. Psycho was way ahead of its time, with it being unprecedented for a movie to show a character's death in such an unabashed way, and of course for a main character to be killed off halfway through the movie. Up until that point, our entire focus had been on Marion Crane, but following her tragic death in the shower, the focus was immediately shifted to Norman Bates. This of course inspired the likes of Wes Craven to do similar things with his horror movies. As I stated before, Psycho was incredibly controversial because of the scene when it was first released, with the entire scene resulting in people storming out in horror. Of course, it is now considered to be one of the greatest movies of all time, and I agree, it's one of the best. It's also the first horror movie I ever watched at the ripe old age of 4. It was no one called child services, I was fine. I have older sisters, someone left it in the VHS player, and I hit play. Don't blame my parents, they're great. Well, there we have it. Do you guys agree with our list? Were there any shocking deaths that we missed? Leave us your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below, and perhaps we can do a part 2. Before I go though, I just want to respond to a few comments from one of our last videos, top 5 best horror TV shows from the 2010s. Icarus the Fox Kid said, I could totally see Lucy as the host of a horror anthology show. Now that you've said it, I can see myself as the host of a horror anthology show as well. Guess I'm gonna have to pack my bags. Sorry guys, I'm out. Jackal Review said Ash vs the Evil Dead is an honourable mention. Blasphemous. Yeah, it is an honourable mention, and deal with it. I feel pretty good having it as an honourable mention. I don't even think it should be a mention. Ha! Nikki said Marianne is so underrated, I'm really sad it didn't get a second season. Penny Dreadful and Kingdom should definitely be on part 2. I've never watched Penny Dreadful, and Kingdom I've only watched the show that has Nick Jonas, and that's a UFC show. I don't think we're talking about the same one. But Marianne is amazing. I have Joss watching it right now. She's very scared. Jerry Millett said, I think it's possible that Lucy was a conductor in some former life, or maybe this one. What kind of conductor? Like an orchestra or a train conductor? Two very different people. So, and either way I don't really want that job, so I don't really know how you've come to that conclusion. Corey Park said Canadian horror series Darknet was one of the best too. Certainly was, I love that show. I watched it many years ago when it first came out, 2014 I think. One of my friends was actually in it. The more you know. Sage Pilgrim said Lucy fashion commentary, I love this blouse, the ivory ochre? ochre? The ivory ochre, I think that's what the word is, and black striping fills me with autumnal longing. Additionally, the slim fit and fabric call to mind the killer matching pajama set of yours, paired of course with more black, a look made for a queen, a dark queen. I like that you reference my matching pajama set. There's literally only one picture of me in that pajama set on the internet, me and Britt. And on that note, if you haven't already, be sure to give this video a big thumbs up, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another scary bit. And until next time, see you later.